Hi there, Chris Hassenberg here from Hassenberg Financial Group with some financial tips this week. Auto ownership is one of the biggest parts of personal finances, and I see people make mistakes all of the time. And I personally have made a lot of mistakes, and so I thought I'd share with you the three biggest mistakes that I've made, along with the best way to own a vehicle, in my opinion. First, back in college, I graduated from college in 1992, and I was driving around in a used Ford Pinto. I believe it to be blue. I think I bought it from my sister, and it was a fine vehicle. It got me from A to B and so on. Well, when I started being a financial planner, I found myself going to client homes to do appointments because I was so happy to have meetings back in the early 90s at 22, 23 years old. And I remember thinking, I don't know who wants to take financial advice from someone who pulls up into the driveway with a Ford Pinto. So I decided to up my game a little bit, and I bought a Cadillac Cimarron used. And buying this Cadillac Cimarron, which was interesting because every time I filled the gas tank, I had to put a quart of oil in the thing. And basically, I don't know if you remember a Cadillac Cimarron, but it was basically a Chevy Cavalier with a skirt and high heels, but it was a Cadillac. Now, buying that wasn't the mistake. The mistake that I made is how I paid for it. Being completely broke, what I did is I actually took a $1,000 credit card advance off of a credit card. Now, I believe the credit card company charged me a cash advance fee, and then they also had 18% interest, and I didn't have any money, and so I basically ended up paying about $100 a month for a year for that thing, and so I ended up paying roughly $1,200 for a $1,000 car. And so, big mistake number one was actually improper financing and paying for it poorly with a credit card. Yeah, that's something. Anyway, that was mistake number one. The second mistake that I did is I let feelings get involved with my next vehicle purchase, and that was my wife was pregnant at the time, and she was 8 months pregnant. I remember thinking, I do not want to bring my baby into this world and home from the hospital in a piece of crap. So what I did is I went and started looking for cars, and when I was looking for cars, I'm reading through the paper, and I found they had I could lease a Mazda 626 for $130 a month. And I thought, well, that's only $30 more than I was paying, and this is for a brand new car. And so I thought, what a deal. So I went down to the dealership and leased a Mazda 626, I believe. It was green. It had a stick shift. It was crank windows, but it was brand new, and I remember being so proud that I leased this vehicle until I got, and I paid this $130 a month for 3 years until I got to the end of that lease and figured out that part of that mileage restriction was that if you went more than the 12,000 or 15,000 miles per year, you had to pay certain number of, I don't even remember how much it was per mile over. And so the vehicle was basically, I was going to have to pay more for the vehicle than it was worth. And so I ended up just buying it at the end of the lease. And leasing is probably the most expensive way to own a vehicle. You got to figure if the car dealership knows what they're selling it for, and they're willing to say, I don't care what you do to it, largely, as long as you return it back, we'll give you this value for it at the end. They don't lose money doing that. And so leasing is definitely an expensive way to own a vehicle. So then the third thing that I did is I decided, okay, well, I'm going to do this a little bit better. And I went and I ordered a brand new truck. This is like 1997. I went to the car dealership. I picked out the color. I picked out the options. I got myself a 1997 Ford truck. And I was kind of proud of that and thinking, hey, I think I've really made it into the world. I'm 5 years into the business driving another brand new truck. Now, the ownership of the vehicle wasn't that big of a deal, other than the fact is the first year the vehicle depreciates so much. The brand new vehicle, when you drive it off the lot, boom, it is now a used vehicle and the value has gone down. And so over the few years that I owned that vehicle, and again, as my family expanded, I had to get different vehicles with more doors and so on. And so I would say the third mistake that I did is I actually bought a brand new truck and I got rid of it just a few years down the road because my family was changing. And so the first mistake that I made, improper financing. You should never use a credit card to pay for a vehicle. Second mistake I made is leasing, because I thought I could get this vehicle. I didn't realize all of the expenses that were involved with leasing. And then the third is I didn't understand how much a vehicle depreciated so much in the first year. And so these are all things that I learned back in the 90s. And that being said, I've done a lot of research since then, but I think the best advice I ever got was from my dad. And he heard this from his father-in-law, Grandpa. And Grandpa Roy used to say the best vehicle purchase was a 2-year-old luxury vehicle. Buy it used, 2 years old. And that advice I seem to think was a really good idea. And the other thing that I got from my dad is that if you can't afford the payments over 36 months, if you can't afford the 36-month payments, you can't afford that vehicle. So if you're out there looking and they're willing to finance it for 60 months, 72 months, 84 months, that's fine if we're going to use their money and so on. But if you've got the cash, and if you can't, and if you were to do the math and divide it out over 36 months, if you can't afford that payment, you know, if it's a $40,000 vehicle, you put $4,000 down, and it's $36,000 is going to be the loan. If you can't afford $1,000 a month, you can't afford a $40,000 vehicle, and so you shouldn't be looking at that one. You should be looking at one less expensive, and that is fantastic advice. And so, those are 3 mistakes that I made back in the day: improper financing, leasing, buying brand new. My best vehicle purchase that I would say that I've had was a 2008 was the last year that Lincoln's made pickups. And so in 2009, I think it was the end of 2009, I found a Lincoln Mark LT pickup used, had 13 or 14,000 miles on it. The sticker price was like 50,000. I was able to buy it for 30. So someone got hurt in that first year with the vehicle depreciation, but not me. And I bought that thing in 2009, and I like I said, I paid 30,000 for it, and I still own it today. It's got 190,000 miles on it. It went down. Of course, it goes down in value every single year, but I take care of that thing like a baby, and I love it. It used to be my daily vehicle. It isn't anymore, but I would say from an overall cost of purchase price, I was able to drive around in a $50,000 vehicle that I paid $30,000 for, and I've had it for more than a decade. And so, anyway, I hope that helps when you're looking at auto purchases. I think as it starts to warm up here in the spring, people tend to do things like that. If you get into those kind of things, keep some of that in mind. And so let me know what you think of this video. Let me know if you disagree with any of the statements that I made. Maybe send me an email about the best vehicle purchase or the worst vehicle purchase mistakes you've ever made. Love to share our ideas with that. So anyway, as always, be well. We are all here at Hassenberg Financial Group killing it, and we're doing great. And if you have any questions, give us a call back at 715-839-6566 and send me an email. Let me know what you think. As always, be well and take care. Bye-bye.